I think at the end of the day, Nintendo will always be around, at least in the form of handhelds, because I think they've got the market pretty solidly on lockdown with that. I mean, even though the 3DS wasn't a major hit, especially in the beginning, they were at least innovating with the new. It has caught up. And one of the reasons I really like Nintendo is that when the 3DS first came out and the sales really floundered, instead of like layoffs and things like that, the executives at Nintendo took a pay cut to make the difference because in their mind they're the ones who made the final decisions. But even though some of the consoles have been lackluster lately, I think Nintendo will always be around in handhelds.
I think even Nintendo might still be around in the console market, depending on how things go. I mean, with one thing with the Wii U, they've provided the example where you can have a console without necessarily needing a TV. But more specifically, it's things like with Microsoft and Sony kind of blurring the lines as to what a game system is. You'll eventually get something that resembles a PC far more closely than it does a console. And when the only option is really crappy PCs or a good PC, or that thing in the corner that actually looks like it's fun, eventually I think Nintendo doing their own thing could come back to them. Not saying it will. It depends how willingly they're going to muscle through a lot of the downtimes they might have in the future. But I think specifically with the Wii itself, one of the biggest problems it had was when it came out, everyone wanted one, but no one really knew of anything they wanted for it. It was just this toy that did things specifically that no one else was doing at the time. And Super Mario Galaxy didn't sell as well as things like Wii Fit or Wii Sports Resort, even though Super Mario Galaxy is one of the best games ever made. It's just the Wii really wasn't made for gamers, and I don't want to say that so much, but it felt like they sort of lost sight of the audience that loved them most during that time.
It's sad to say when the best console on the 8th generation is the Ouya.
I still hold that the Dreamcast is the best console of every generation.
Not just the 8th generation, the new one. Ouya, hands down.
My favorite console will always be the SNES, so... I mean, I recognize that other consoles are better, but it will just always be my favorite.
Same.
Dreamcast will always be mine just because of the time it came out. More than anything, it's kind of the time where I realised this is what I love, this is why I play games, and so on. But I have a lot of reverence for pretty much all of the consoles that came before this generation. Well, all the important ones anyway. I don't have a Jaguar, but I
do.
Lucky you. I have a Master System.
The Master System. God, the one beast that's been eluding me. I have a Philips CDI sitting across the fucking room. For Christ's sake, I don't have a Master System.
When you say the beast that's eluded you, I imagine you going around to, like, the local game shops or the privately owned ones, or even, like, pawn shops in, like, a safari outfit.
And they're hiding...
I just imagine him dressed as Captain Ahab.
They're just hiding behind the shelves.
That's probably more accurate, actually.
Fucking, I had one in my hands, like, last week, and I was holding it, and the guy who owned the place was like, oh yeah, my employee already bought it. Like, he bought it straight from the guy. And the worst part was, the guy that he bought it from was somebody I knew. Like, because this kid used to always come into the store and I'd buy stuff directly from... Like, that's how I got the Jaguar. It's like, son of a bitch, I don't work here anymore, so I don't get, like, first dibs on everything good that comes in the store.
I think we're missing a certain person's favourite console. Zilla's, the PlayStation 1, of course.
Okay. Actually, it's really hard for me to say what my favorite console is. I really like the N64 and I really like the SNES. The N64 I really like maybe a little better because for the first bit I actually skipped the Super Nintendo because there was just a Nintendo at my grandparents' house. And then the first console I actually owned was when me and my brother saved up money to get a Nintendo 64. Go back here when I was first able to gain employment, I actually found a Super Nintendo from a pawn shop, and they gave me a really good deal on about 20 or so games, and I realized how many great games I'd actually missed out on, and I had so much fun for almost a year just playing all these Super Nintendo games. So it's really hard for me to say between the two which ones are my favorite console, but Super Nintendo and N64 are definitely really close in my mind.
I do think the PlayStation 2 these days do get a lot of flack, weirdly. Maybe because they were popular, but I think you have to give them credit for just how huge their libraries are and how many great games actually came out on them as well. I mean, I remember back in the day playing the Final Fantasy, Metal Gear, Tekken and so on, and just loving the hell out of it.
Yeah, like they had games like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. A lot of the Final Fantasy remakes were on the original PlayStation. A Chrono Trigger remake was on the PlayStation. They had games like the first Silent Hill, which I'm actually still a fan of. And on that note, I am looking at 2 PlayStations and 2 PlayStation 2s that are on my shelf right now. So, yeah.
Got a fat boy and a slim line of each one?
Yep.
I mean, with the PlayStation 2, especially for me, PlayStation 2 was kind of, and Dreamcast to throw into it actually. That's where I found my love of fighting games really flourish. Just the amount of games I could get for each one, and just how good they were. Especially on the Dreamcast because of the poor, just because it was just a great arcade machine in itself. But PlayStation 2 suffered loading times with a lot of them. But just being able to track down like so many things that didn't come out here previously, like the King of Fighters titles that never came out over here until they got collections on the PlayStation 2. So it's like one of my favourite genres now was kind of defined by those 3 systems. I even like Street Fighter EX, and no one else likes Street Fighter EX.
My Street Fighter game growing up was Street Fighter Alpha 2, and to this day I've never met anyone else who's actually played it.
Alpha 2 is fucking awesome, I love it.
Damn skippy it is.
If they should release that on Steam right now so I could play it with you.
Did that come out on the Sega Saturn at all ever, or one of those?
I think the entire Alpha series is on. I'm not sure about the first one actually. Alpha 2 is weird in that it's the only one I think that came out on the Super Nintendo as well as the 32-bit era stuff.
Yeah, because I think I might have one of those games for my Saturn.
Plot twist, Tim has all these consoles but has never played a video game.
But yeah, with Street Fighter Alpha 2, it did come out. I think it came out on the Saturn. It came out on the PlayStation 2. I've got the PlayStation. It came out on the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. I've got the PlayStation 2 version that's as part of the collection, the Alpha Anthology. But yeah, the Super Nintendo version, I think they might have released it on the Wii through that version. I'm not sure. There's a PC version on GOG as well.
Interesting. I had no idea about any other versions that might exist, so.
I'm kind of going with the whole fighting game nerd thing. I should point out, I'm not very good at them. I just really like them. But with Street Fighter specifically, it's been one of my favourites since I was a child, alongside Mortal Kombat. So I just I almost kind of want to buy every version of Street Fighter 2 that there is, just because they're there and I want to be able to play it on anything. However, I'd probably need to buy a new house just to store them all.
I've heard of worse reasons to buy new houses.
I manage with my collection in a 2-bedroom apartment, so.
I think Street Fighter 2 alongside Sonic 1 are probably the most ported games in history. I guess maybe Pac-Man might win, but those two seem to be the ones that stick in my mind at least, that just seem to be on everything now.
That or Tetris.
On Netflix.
Netflix isn't a game.
Stop thinking like Microsoft, Josh.
Damn it.
TV does not equal interactive.
If I was to tell you that Netflix are releasing a toaster next year, would you believe me?
They're releasing a what?
A toaster that you can watch Netflix on.
See, the thing is, I made a joke about something like that like a few months ago on Facebook. Please don't tell me this is real.
No, I was just making it up. I just wanted to see if anybody would actually believe it.
I believe someone would make a toaster that Netflix would release their services on, just to spite me because I can't use it on the 3DS in this country.
I got it on my PS Vita and that works. I think.
The only reason
I
would believe that... The only reason that I would believe about the Netflix toaster is because I read an article about Wi-Fi enabled toilets, and that problems were being caused because they could be hacked, and people would just jack up other people's water bills by continuously flushing their Wi-Fi toilet.
I don't even know. America, am I right?
Probably.
I believe
That
this
sounds
took
like
place
it could
in
be a
Britain.
Japanese thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably Japan.
I seem to recall that it was somewhere in the UK.
Oh dear.
Matt, was that you?
Yeah, it was.
Shit.
Okay, so yeah, I have
Was that a pun?
Okay, so yeah, I have Street Fighter Alpha Warrior's Dreams on the Sega Saturn. I thought that sounded familiar.
That's the first one. It's a bit weird. I don't like it so much, but it came up with sort of Tekken-like combo systems, which never really went well with Street Fighter so much.
I wonder what's easier to get, Netflix or free water in America? Or Wi-Fi connection. I'd say Wi-Fi connection. Anyone?
It's up to the Americans on this one, I think.
Fuck you, Zilla.
Well, I mean, we've developed genetically modified trees that just produce Wi-Fi, so I mean that's
Yeah, and it's
arguably the easiest.
It's the green Wi-Fi program that President Obama signed off on. So
And yes, Alpha 2 was released on the Saturn. Alpha 1 was, as has previously been stated. Street Fighter 2 was, to no one's surprise. And Street Fighter the movie, the game, was released on it as well. Which I still don't own.
I completely, well, okay, somewhat ironically love the Street Fighter movie, if only because of Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Raul Julia?
yeah, really.
Does Raul Julia make a speech about going up Reaver?
No, but it was only Tuesday.
I just want to add about Zilla actually moving his mouth. He's threatened me over Skype, so I'm going to be quiet for the rest of the podcast.
It's not a threat. It's a preliminary action.
Keeping me on my toes.
I will turn this podcast around.
It's like a minibus.
But it's time for your monologue, Josh.
About what?
I don't know, it's your monologue.
Shit. I don't know. Nicholas Cage.
Good job. And Street Fighter Alpha 3 was released, but I can only find a Japanese version. So it's 0.
Birdemic Threat.
I might pick... Oh, fuck, I'm not buying that.
Nicholas Cage. The Room.
£529 and 60 pence used.
The Room, the game.
There's actually a game about the room.
There is. It's on Newgrounds, isn't it?
Why, little, why?
Have our brains decayed enough?
Please, Lisa, please talk to me, please. You're a part of my life. I cannot go on without you.
In fact, we could get Josh to do a monologue using just Birdemic and The Room quotes.
What a story, Matt.
I'd watch that.
Haha.
You just have to string them together so that they make logical sense, as in terms of language.
Well, if
They
they
already made a story based on the worst parts of The Room in Birdemic, and it was called Street Shark 2 Suburban Jaws.
My brethren.
Sorry, Ghost Shark 2.
Sharknado. Oh,
Sharknado
Alien
wasn't even
versus
so
Ninja.
bad. See, Sharknado wasn't even so bad that it was good to me. Like, I thought it was just so bad that I just couldn't be bothered to care about it. If you want a shark movie on the Sci-Fi Channel that really was so bad it's good, watch Jersey Shore Shark Attack.
what?
It is a obviously a ripoff of Jersey Shore. Jersey Shore has a person called the Situation. This movie's main character is the Complication. It is an absolutely shameless ripoff and knows it, and just has a ball with it from start to finish, and it is glorious. It also has Joey Fatone. So
Wait, Mike. You're telling me the Sci-Fi Channel have ripped off an already existing product?
Get out!
try to follow here, but if you hear a small popping at this point in the podcast, that would be Josh's mind being blown.
Wow, you were able to hold down the button while your mind was being blown. Interesting.
I think maybe like your grip just increases at that point to brace yourself.
I can't talk, I'm dead.
You just talked.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did
He's
it
an
again.
internet ghost now.
You did it again!
The continuity of this podcast is all over the place.
And
Moffat!
then I woke up. And then I
So
woke
we've been
up
going
and
for like
the
an
podcast
hour and
was just
20
back there.
minutes.
Yeah, but I gotta cut down
Is
it.
it about time to wrap this up?
Here pretty soon, yeah. But I gotta cut out that big PewDiePie section.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best. I'll do it some other time.
As a sort
Restart the
of
podcast.
thing, if we can find a fighting game to play for a stream online, say like Street Fighter 4, King of Fighters, or Injustice, I'm totally down for that.
Injustice. I'm in for Injustice so goddamn hard.
I just bought Injustice off the Steam sale, so
Fantastic.
I'll be the spectator.
We all get to be
I'll
Batman.
join you.
I'm gonna be the Flash, motherfucker.
I'm
I've
Lobo.
never played
Get
it.
to be Batman.
I've never actually played Injustice. I just remember in the Super Nintendo Justice League fighting game, I'd always be Green Arrow.
Oh my god, he's so
I played that
fucking
on the-
trolly in this game.
Good.
I played
Green Arrow
the,
versus Deathstroke is entertaining.
Justice League Task Force, you mean?
Yes, I do.
I played that on the Mega Drive way back. I don't know if it's a better or worse version, presumably worse just because that's the way Mega Drive ports went back then. But I remember it sucking even back then.
Yeah, it honestly wasn't a very good fighting game.
I think the only game that topped it for me in terms of worst fighting game of my childhood was probably Clay Fighter 63 1/3.
Aww. I love that game.
The only good thing about it was Sumo Santa and Earthworm Jim.
I love Dickie Bud Clay.
It also had the most racist karate master in the world.
Oh god. Yeah, that was pretty bad.
It's took me this long where I've realised, Matt, you spelled Robotnik wrong.
Go on.
Robotic Nick.
It's Robobotnik.
Shit.
It's an old handle I've had for like 10, 12 years maybe. It's my handle on DeviantArt and Steam, and so I'm just trying to keep it consistent. I'd rather just go by my name, but whatever. Slight trivia, it came from a teenage idea I had when I was like 15 or something, for a fan character that was just literally a robot version of Robotnik. I grew up, but the name sticks.
I'm still trying to change my username because the one I used for the longest time was NNY_IX, which is simply pronounced as Knee9. But the problem is, whenever you're like applying to be part of beta or something like that, they see that and they're like, "Oh, this is a spam email. This isn't even a real thing." And so I'm trying to get away from that because using a nickname like that gives no indication that you're a real human person. So for like 2 weeks, I was using Instead of Shaving for stuff, which is my Reddit and my Tumblr. But then I realized that's really gross and really bad. So I'm just going to make everything Not Another Reviewer now.
Usually on forums and whatnot, my handle was Motor Waffle. Simply because I was having a hell of a time thinking of a name that wasn't already taken on a forum years back, and I tried to think of the most random object that I could motorize.
I always wanted a robot turtle. Just thought I'd say that.
I occasionally want to dress my turtle as a robot with tinfoil, but don't think he'll take kindly to it.
I don't think he would enjoy that very muchly.
No. The turtle voiced by Alan Rickman would not. My roommate and I were sitting in our apartment and we were just watching my turtle derp around, and we started doing an Alan Rickman voice to voice his inner monologue about how he was going to first escape the tank and then conquer the world, and the Alan Rickman voice has stuck to my videos.
How much weed did you smoke at that point?
All of it.
Was he eventually stopped by a plumber?
I'm sorry.
Maybe someday. Actually, I can't smoke anything. My lung collapsed a few years back, and I've been told that smoking is a great way to kill myself. More so than in most situations.
I don't feel bad. Sorry, dude.
It's alright, it was like 10 to 15% of the air sacs in my lung burst, which is relatively small for that kind of injury.
Well, on a positive note, go on Twitter and search cats and money. That'll cheer you up. They post pictures of cats in loads of money.
There's also a
That just
video
makes
on
me envious
YouTube.
for the cat.
There's also a video on YouTube called, I believe it's Boobies and Kitties. And I believe it is the new national anthem of the internet.
Well, if there was ever going to be one.
There's just so many cats with loads of money. I just don't even know. One's got a samurai sword. That's cool. This one's got a bottle of Jim Beam, loads of 20s, a knife and a brass knuckles. That's just... How do cats get that?
So now I'm gonna have to find these pictures and put them on the video.
Next to
I
the
think
real
we should review
34
Cats and
Pilot.
Dogs just for these pictures.
Yes.
Just all of us together. I mean, it's not a very good movie, not really review material either, but just to give Josh the satisfaction.
Yes. Actually, Tim reviewed some Rule 34 of My Little Pony for me on the live stream, so there was that.
Yeah. Man, when are we going to do that again? That was fun.
What the podcast?
Though, I mean
No, the live stream.
the live stream with our one viewer that left.
Dude, that was a train wreck, but we'll do it again.
I'll happily join. Well, it depends when, obviously, but I got the next 2 days off.
I may do one tomorrow. That could be a good idea.
I'll be game because it'll be 2 degrees outside with a -10 wind chill. I'm not going anywhere.
Fuck yes, we'll do a live stream. We'll play a game and we'll take the piss.
I might test out my PVR streaming capabilities and see what that's all about too tonight at some point.
And there's always Street Fighter 4.
And I'll quiet the room.
Does anybody have Chivalry? I got that on the Steam sale. Might be fun to do.
Oh yeah. That'd be good.
I have that as well, actually. It's an awesome game, but I suck at it. So it should make for a good video, at least.
Climb on in your ass, bitch! I actually like Chivalry quite a lot.
It's kind of interesting because I first came across a review of it when it came, shortly before it came out, I think. Right after I asked a friend if he knew of any good melee-based deathmatch games, and he just replied, there are none.
Or Splunky.
I've only played that a bit so far.
Dude, it's sweet.
I don't know, I think maybe I played it too soon after being obsessed with Rogue Legacy.
To be honest with you, that game is kicking my ass at the moment.
Spelunky?
No, Rogue Legacy.
Oh, right. It gets better, as in, it gets tougher.
Shit.
But you get better as well.
The entire point of the game is that it repeatedly kicks your ass.
Yeah, but you kind of want it to eventually, just so you can spend all the money you make.
I watched a live stream of a guy completed all the 4 bosses without getting any upgrades except for the Shinobi.
You need to get a few just to get the Shinobi, though.
Yeah, but I mean, he built his way up to that and he completed the game in like 32 minutes.
It's pretty impressive. The Shinobi's really awesome for its damage. It just kicks the shit out of everything. But I just found myself liking the Barbarian most because I could just survive a really long time. As a thought, a lot of this doesn't really sound like podcast material.
No.
No, I think the podcast died about 10 minutes ago.
I'll be the judge of that.
Should we do a wrap up just to have it there? And if anything comes up, we can just edit it back in, or Tim can.
Well, the thing is, we should probably do a sign off because I gotta go because I gotta run to the store and grab some stuff for dinner for like the next few days because we're kind of running on like the ramen and rice diet where there's like nothing.
Alright, everybody, it's time that we wrap up this week's podcast, so we're going to go around and see if anyone has any final thoughts, starting with Josh.
No.
Fair enough. Tim, you laughed, so you're next.
Oh shit! Play Metroid, but not Other M. Play Metroid Fusion. It's probably my favorite one, or Super Metroid. Those are good.
General Zilla.
I'll just Retro Nightmares returns this week, so stay tuned.
Ooh. Hey, is there anybody going to be in that video, Zilla? Huh?
Might be somebody in that video.
Probably nobody.
There was a bunch of people in the Time Lord review. Wonder who they were.
So, Matt, do you have any final comments?
Yes, I think I might play Other M.
Go for it. I mean, the gameplay experience isn't terrible, but the story is.
Well, I've had it for like a year or two, so I should probably play it. I should probably take it out the cellophane. Actually, fuck it, I'm gonna watch Fist of Legend instead.
Sounds like a good use of your time. Well, I know for me that's all I have to say, so I think I speak for all of us here when I say thank you for listening to this week's podcast. Hope you come back next week. I'll see you later.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye!
Yeah.
Okay, and with that, that concludes our Geeks of the Roundtable Let's Play. I hope you enjoyed the podcast that we recorded, as well as me trying to blunder about on Super Mario RPG, and hopefully accidentally selling that fat wallet won't turn around and haunt me in some way. Goodbye, everybody.